Yeah, I think like for me the biggest scare I would have if I'm Heretics is probably just the Victor. That has been Vladi's best champ. It was banned all the time at first stand, and it's just that's the #1 pick that I'm scared of, that I would go into draft being wary of.
As we go into the draft, we already see really fast bans actually. Actually, the Senna is already being taken out from Casey,
And
so
so is
kind
the
of
Yone.
anticipating that, and the Yone Caliste. So this kind of brings my attention to the Azir. I think it's a strong champion that Vladi has prioritized a lot, and I think Kamiloo has shown. I don't have the data there, but I think he has shown some drive to play the champion.
Yeah, for sure, and it's just a great scaling pick while having a good laning phase as well. Great mobility, great range.
I also want to say we're joined by Odwamne now in draft with us.
Good plug, Flip.
Also have his great insights, long career with a lot of insight in this.
Okay, where is
not
this
that,
going?
Not that long of a career in the drafting department, you know?
Odo, if you were Carlsen here, what would you think about top lane? What would you be looking for? Trying to pick like a safe blind, or would you want to try?
Well, on blue, you're kind of stuck on looking for safe blinds pretty much. The Ambessa, the Nar, Jace is out from game 1, obviously, but these are kind of the neutral topics that I'm looking at. But right now, I'm more interested in the mid lane with Victor Azir being open. There's a Xin Zhao open on the side of K-Corp, so I feel like we might be looking at these sorts of trades right now.
Yeah, I love the Vi here for Sheo. I think he provides a lot of proactivity. The only downside is the weak early game. We'll see if Casey maybe decides to opt in for an even stronger early game. Ooh, it's just a Gwen blind pick.
Ooh, this is interesting because I feel like it's locked into top. I do feel like, so the thing with the Gwen is that when you see the Gwen, especially with the Azir, you will probably have a Xin Zhao on 3, and what this does is it's incredible synergy between Gwen and the Xin Zhao, bringing up a lot of tempo and a lot of space making in the team, because when you have Azir sitting in the backline and in front of you have Gwen and Xin Zhao, how are they going to walk past? They have 5 seconds where you pretty much just don't damage anything and you tempo the fight so well.
Yeah, and Azir was a point that you mentioned earlier on as well, Finn, that you were looking forward to. So now that it's locked in, going up against the Ahri, how are we feeling about that?
So Azir will have control of that lane in a 1v1, but after level 6, that Vi-Ahri combo has so much lockdown, and that's really when you start playing the game as the Heretics mid-jungle. That is really the timing we're looking at for them to really make this Ahri work. We need to see Kamiloo have a solid laning phase before that, so when Sheo then hits level 6 on the Vi, he can actually impact it.
The second the Poppy was locked in, you started smiling.
I mean, it's a crazy fast draft. It's just like everything is going so fast, and it's a fantastic Poppy game, right? You're into 3 dashes here. It sets up great for the Gwen and the Azir. You can both peel for them and engage for them.
And it also puts a lot of pressure on Team Heretics because right now you do have standard winning lanes, or at least in the mid lane with the Poppy as well. I feel like you have the winning jungler as well. You can put a lot of pressure on the Vi, and now all of a sudden the pressure is on Team Heretics to make it up to level 6, unscathed, ready to play and force through this mid lane, because this is pretty much the main pressure point of the draft, even though top lane is winning in isolation.
Yeah, I will say there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Carlsen this draft, because it will have the weaker jungle, mid lane will be pushed in, and they have counterpick support if they want to. So he's kind of the only pressure point in those early lanes where kind of Heretics can kind of rely on, and that really relies on him playing the matchup as it is intended to.
Even going into mid game, I feel like he's not really having an easy task where I feel like, how are you going to make pressure? How are you going to create space when the Poppy's looking at you dead in the eye for pretty much every single flank or teamfight situation you find yourself in, and Azir is ready to shuffle you the moment you overextend? I feel like it's not really an easy game from Carlsen, but I am curious here what K-Corp we're going to go here on 4.
I'm thinking maybe just the map for Ezreal makes the most sense. Just the easiest blind picks available. Caliste does go for the Ezreal. Maybe Flakked just matches it with the MF. Just been the go-to power picks after like so many ADCs are out. But I don't love MF here. I would like something that...
I was like a Seri here for me. I was thinking about Seri into Ezreal. That's kind of a neutralizer. Looks like it might be the MF being locked in here. But as you say, it is a bit hard sometimes for the misfortune to kind of make yourself known in the game.
Yeah, and then you have another dash on the Neeko against the Poppy.
This is bizarre a little bit because I feel like K-Corp reacted in this draft to picking the Poppy. They pivoted away from this Zhao, picked the Poppy, reacted to what they saw in the first 3. And I feel like the 4-5 from Team Heretics doesn't really give them any sort of different win conditions. I still feel like you're kind of looking to go for this front to back, but you won't really find a lot of space.
I mean, you guys talked about the pressure on Carlsen here, but now with the Neeko blind pick, you kind of default just win bot lane. That's the biggest priority of the champion, is you just can carry any ADC. So bot lane should now be winning, mid lane is still going to be losing, but now you at least have both bot and top that you can play for. While if you were to blind pick a standard engage support, and then Targamas gets counterpick, probably you're going to have a losing bot.
Where are we expecting to see the most resources from the side of Heretics in this game?
Probably to the mid lane, because I feel like top and bot should win passively, but at the same time, Ahri is the main X factor in this draft when I think about it, because she's the one who has the most flexibility. She doesn't really have to go through the poppy. She can still pivot around the sides and find charms to kind of, you know, break down the team fight into multiple smaller pieces.
Well, with that, we are also ready to head into the second game of the series. This is Heretics' chance to equalize things, but also on the flip side, KC can potentially push this one game further. But let's head over to our casters to see which draft they think is going to be carrying the hardest.
It depends on nameplates always, but I've got two analysts to help me run through that as Heretics try to fight back. After a game one that was a little bit prickly. It's like running into a field of cactus and you just don't know how you're going to get out.
Has that happened before?
No, I just imagine myself doing that and I'm stuck. Like, how do I get out, you know?
Well, while we don't delve further into your nightmares, let's instead get a slightly greater insight into the drafts. I think KC's draft is very straightforward. Again, a lot of long range, simple front to back, relatively easy to execute, with Poppy in particular being able to disrupt a lot of the mobility on the side of Heretics.
Yep.
Now, I have just been informed that there is a pause. When we have more information, we will, of course, share that with you. But yeah, I think that it's not that I dislike Heretics' composition. I think that in isolation, it looks fairly solid. Good team fighting, similar to what the desk was saying, with a few side lane options. It's more that just when it comes to the 5v5s and how you execute them, I just always default to Azir and Ezreal being the easier of the comps to execute.
Yeah, especially because when you look at Heretics draft, it's very clear of, hey, we want to lock down one person with Vi, open up with the MF ult, try and burst them out and kind of take the team fight through that with resets and being able to quickly follow up on team fights with the Jax and the Ahri. But the problem is, as Vedi was alluding to, the Azir has that dash away. You've got the Arcane Shift for the Ezreal. It just makes it very difficult to find value there. And even for things like the Gwen, who can go immune, your target selection is a bit limited on Heretics side, but if they can try and play through the strong mid jungle, I think that's probably your best bet. Like, try and push Vladi to his limits in the early stages, see if he can get a lead, and then maybe you can try and fish for picks before KC can really set up for these strong team fights.
Yeah, because I feel like if we're looking at, you know, the weakness of KC in this game at least, maybe some of that early impression, the solo lanes this time won't be as abrasive. Like last game, the Jace top was out of control. As I'm just seeing everyone leave the game. I feel like we're just going to have to chill a little bit while we work out what's going on. Might be remaking the game, but I'll give you an update once we know, because we are currently investigating.
Yeah, I am interested to see how Heretics want to try and play through the early stages, though, because I think in the last game we saw very much, hey, we've got push top, we got push mid, this is going to work out for KC, whereas when we come into this game, you've got a very strong bot lane in the MF and the Neeko, you've got good mid jungle, and Carlsen in a matchup that he can do relatively well in. So I think this is where, in theory, you can try and play a little bit more aggressive as Heretics, and certainly for Sheo as well, because he's kind of been the standout performer for Heretics, the veteran on this roster as well, alongside Flakked. So he's been the one that's been leading the charge a lot, but didn't really get to have that impact in the last game with the way things all worked out in the Fury. This kind of feels more going back towards a style that can set Heretics up for success.
Yeah, because often when we talk about compositions, we always look at everything sort of objectively with the nameplates off. But the moment you put the nameplates back on, it immediately becomes a question of, okay, well, the reason why I talk about simplicity is because in KC versus Heretics, I just think that Heretics have demonstrated individually worse players. And so when you want to keep the draft simple, like that is easier to execute, that gives you a greater advantage of being able to turn things around. And so when I see KC having this relatively straightforward composition to play, I think that it only ends up becoming harder and harder for Heretics. And again, we turn our attention to the solo laners. In theory, there's a lot of options they potentially have, but we saw Vladi really out-trade Kamiloo in a matchup that's supposed to be Orianna favored, to then set up for some really nice ganks from Yike. Canna straight up solo killed Carlsen. And then a lot of the plays that Team Heretics tried to make in the team fights ended up immediately being punished. And so this is the other barrier that in terms of team level, we saw in game one the difference between them. You see at the top of your screen, Seed 1 versus Seed 6. And that's why all of this responsibility kind of to come back to the start of the point, is that Sheo, a lot of the responsibility falls on his shoulders. Heretics look the best when Sheo is having a huge impact in the early game, because this team is good enough that when you give them a lead, they do know how to use it, as they've demonstrated throughout the regular season.
Now we're finally in the game. Now, there was a visual bug. It's sorted out. But, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry about that. We're into game now. That's all that matters. And in game 2, as we talk about KC setting up here in this lane, we talked about the ease of execution of Ezreal. I want to talk a little bit about ease of execution for their drafts quickly. Because it does feel like these stats matter. Now, I don't know how much you want to take away from this, but, yeah, Vedi, what do you think?
I mean, it's a fun stat that we found that was pretty interesting, that KC's win rate on the blue side, I mean, you can see it speaks for itself. They just seem to lose more often on reds. A part of this is, well, honestly, I don't know if there's any specific trend or any reason. I think a lot of their losses, I've largely attributed this split to Vladi kind of over-Zekka-ing sometimes. He's been pushing the limits a little bit too far, and he's been testing the boundaries of what he can do with both his champion pool and how far he can push his execution.
Oi, oi, oi.
It seems that that visual bug is still there.
It could be back.
But when we have more information, we will, of course, share it with you.
It could be that. I wonder if that minion's back. You remember that minion who got stuck in the turret a couple of weeks ago?
I do.
That old
but I
bloke?
think that was a spectator bug, not an actual.
No, that was
bug.
actually, he was there. He was real.
None of this is real.
I
Jake.
I just.
I go back to sleep.
Yeah.
He was real. I forgot his name, but he was real.
George? I don't know.
No, it wasn't Dudley, was it? What was his name? What did we name him? But he was stuck in the turret, and he had a good time, and he lived the longest out of any minion life that we've seen in League of Legends.
That's not true.
No, outside of a bot game, that is true. Okay,
I don't think you have the historian authority to approve that.
I bet in a competitive game that was the longest living minion we've ever seen, and it was Gerald, by the way. How dare you forget his name?
Okay, first of all, you gave him a name, and I don't think you have the authority to give him a name.
I think I do. I was there. I named the minion.
Secondly, I think you've forgotten about the fact that back in the day, we used to have Banner of Command minions.
Yeah, but they did not
Yeah, but
survive
they
8
died
minutes.
eventually.
Some of those things lived until the end of the game.
Yeah, but at
What
the end
happens
of the game,
to those minions, though?
There were-
Oh, jeez.
There have also been very...
Are they reincarnated? Is that the lore?
I also don't know if you remember,
the minions when the game ends.
Heimerdinger used to trap minions.
I don't remember that.
He used to use his turrets at the Nexus, and you could block off the ability of minions to actually walk into lane.
Ooh.
So you would
that
amass
with
an
Nivea?
army. You would amass an army of minions in your base, and then you would eventually release them. Now, of course, since then, Riot has said, no,
Please.
you're not doing that. So changes were made to both the minions and to Heimerdinger's turrets.
They got spacing now between them that they have
But
to make.
even to this day, you can still do things to minions with a few different champions. I think Heimerdinger is still one of them. Nivea Wall is an example where we've even seen it this year.
Wasn't it Broken Blade who did it top?
No, it was Naknako.
Oh, it was Naknako,
And he was the one that took his wall at level 1, and he was using them on the minions to delay the minions.
Which I didn't think was
getting to
legal,
wave.
but apparently it is.
Yeah. But yeah, and then he was able to
like
get the
we've
push.
gone from minion history to minion law now. We're getting the full academics here.
We're just going to be kept in line.
So yeah, right now the
Did you mean that?
No, that's a good one though, isn't it? Minions need to be kept
a
in line.
visual
Good one,
bug has
Baker,
been reported by the players. Once we get more information, we will of course share it with you while the league officials investigate.
Did you check mid lane on your spectator client and make sure he's not there?
What do you mean? Did I?
Just to make sure that
I can't
Gerald's
move
not there.
my spectator client. I am paused in frame.
You're the bug. Now, obviously, Vedius just told you what's going on. And it is with Neeko, that visual bug, by the way. They're investigating it currently. We'll update you as we get more information. Signs are out and about.
Has anyone told them that Neeko can actually change into a different champion? Because maybe they don't realize.
A classic.
Or a minion.
Do you know how many times that has gotten me throughout my career, by the way? Like, I want to say I've done a world final where that got me before.
It's because you saw on the minimap, you
Yes,
saw like...
it's because I look at the minimap and I'm like, Kaiser's on her way bot. I'm like, that ain't Kaiser.
I have to ask you a question. Why, as a spectator, do we need to see the fake Neeko?
Yeah, I know.
Why can't I see real
the best
Neeko?
one, Medic had it the other week where he stole, Neeko was transformed into Kaiser. It was Vladi stole the Neeko's ult, but it was Kaiser Neeko was Kai'Sa, so it looked like that he stole Kai'Sa's ultimate, but he did in fact have a Neeko ultimate.
Wait, really?
So instead of stealing Killer Instinct, he had the...
No, so he knew that he was stealing Neeko's ultimate, but the Neeko transformed into Kai'Sa. The Sylas stole the... Oh, is that the visual bug?
Yeah.
What is that? That's like a spa treatment.
I am
What was
almost 100% certain that that is where poros live, and they're about to jump out.
That's where minions go
So
when
it's
they're on
quite
holiday.
funny because in the all chat they were saying, "Did you see it?" And the other lane was like, "Yeah, I saw it," and we didn't see anything. but apparently that's what they saw.
What was that? It was a shimmering light.
I'm assuming it's like Neeko's Q.
Oh, and it just keeps like
Maybe.
spreading.
But truthfully, I don't know. I'm not familiar with this bug. Feature, I mean. Feature.
Good one.
Yeah. Try and find out the hell to your minions now, huh?
I don't know where they go when the game ends, Rob. Sorry.
Isn't it Bandle City?
Yeah.
Is it an ever-ending cycle? They
I don't
go to
know.
Bandle City and then they come out of Bandle City.
I'm going to feel really bad if they just get taken and then move to Brawl. Because it's like, do you just go between all the game modes? Is that what
One
happens?
day, right, we'll just release this really dark memoir of a minion. And it'll just be like the horror stories of what the minions have gone through. And they're like, day 9073. I once again saw Frank fighting against a colossal Malphite.
I was going to say, we need to rename them from Gerald and Frank then. Because it can't be like, Barry.
we got like Neferi and Ahri and all Misfortune, and then we got Bazza. You know, Frank. They just, you know.
Although now I do want like a news story, which is just Bazza and Gaza, the minions, living their best lives. Go to the pub on a Friday afterwards. You know.
Do you know? Fun fact: in Oceania server when it first came out, I can't remember when it was, but it was like celebrating it. They renamed the Baron. When you clicked on it, it wasn't Baron. It was Bazza.
Oh.
And
Legends.
And then Dazza was the dragon.
Well, while that is a very fun fact, we're going to hand it over to the analyst desk to fill in this time.
Yeah,
What would you name your minions?
we'll
Where do
see
you
you in
think
a bit.
minions go when they, you know, the game ends?
Nah, that's some like...
I would name my minion Bob.
Bob?
That is such a basic...
What about Jeeves?
Jeeves is your cannon minion.
Jeeves is like...
Jeeves.
When your name is Jeeves, you're like born to be a butler, you know?
What?
Minion butler?
No, like imagine your parents' names are Jeeves, like you're born to be a butler, you know what I mean?
I
Are
mean,
you
that is quite
saying this from
exquisite.
like experience?
No,
you
like
wanna
have you
talk
ever met?
about it?
Have you
Wanna-
ever seen a guy called Jeeves?
No.
Jeeves, that's not a butler.
I have never heard of that name to begin with.
Okay.
Anyways, back to what actually matters, and that is the game, or specifically the draft. The draft. We've already touched upon a little bit in terms of like where we're expecting the resources to go from the side of Heretics, and you're talking about that mid lane matchup. I would love to dive a little further into the bot lane specifically in terms of how we're expecting that to play out, because we have the Neeko. Well, Heretics has the Neeko, so they're looking to win this and snowball.
Yeah. I mean, when you pick the Neeko, you're almost guaranteed lane pressure. Like globally right now, when you pick when you pick Neeko, you have lane push. And together with the MF, there's going to be a lot of poking with the Make It Rain and those not poppers, and the little bubbles flying around. And I think I want to see them use this to kind of help Sheo navigate the early game, because Sheo is still the guy. You're playing Vi, you want to get to level 6, and then if you get to the Vi level 6 freely, then you start gaming.
Exactly. If you give to your jungler will give back at some point. But at the same time, I feel like they took a little bit of a gamble here, because I feel like by the time the Poppy got locked in, I thought that they needed to pull a little, a rabbit out of the hat, and did it with the Neeko MF, because it's so explosive in the bot lane. It gives you so many tools to navigate this early game that they actually need to do something with it, because come level 6, if Ezreal Rell is equal in the lane, I feel like you lose already a lot of the power. So I would like to see this MF Neeko, get the push early game, shove waves, stack waves slowly, swap maybe, because we see it a lot in LCK and LPL where teams just swap, even though there's no objectives. But anything that you can disrupt the natural flow of lane, especially with MF, when you can just run around the map with your W, with the ridiculous movement speed, you need to find more of these creative ways to, accelerate the game early and just buy time for your Vi.
Considering how last game was very one-sided from the side of KC, do we think that the bot lane, with the picks locked in, have the ability to actually be able to do that? Will KC even let them? Is Vladi gonna let them?
I actually feel like game one, the bot lane of Team Heretics had a pretty good game. I feel like Flakked had a lot of strong moments, a lot of good Ws, and I really like Heretics kind of shifting now the focus to giving their bot lane the agency to impact the game. Because I feel like this was actually the role in game one where they really had, I would say, an upper hand against KC, and I like seeing, especially Stend on this Neeko. When you play Neeko, you gotta get really creative. You gotta look for these angles, and it's kind of the ball is the ball is in his court
English
right
is really
now.
difficult today.
English is a difficult
I'm
language.
saying, yeah.
But coming back to the Vladi point, I feel like even if he wouldn't want to let them, he really doesn't have a choice, because I feel like with Azir, you're not really the most... I mean, I guess you have some degree of lane agency in that sense, but you're still playing against Ahri. You need to be, careful with the ganks and how you manage your wave, and you don't have all the tools in the early game to just, put the game on your back and carry. So I'm still thinking that Team Heretics bot lane has all the tools necessary, especially when I think of Stend. He used to be primarily, a Rakan Rell player, a lot of playmaking, a lot of engage. But with Neeko, you kind of have that on steroids in the sense where you still have a lot of lane power. You're this perfect hybrid between a ranged and a melee champion. You can poke the lane. You can, throw your weight around in that sense, and still have all the tools that made them good in the mid game, because that's where he spiked. So I feel like even though Vladi is OP, we always love Vladi. We love Vladi on control mages. It's still on Team Heretics. We? LEC, everyone.
Yay, that's good. I just wanted to have like...
The top lane, the top lane synergy over here.
Yeah.
Leaving me hanging. That's synergy right there.
You were gonna leave it up, but considering we have the top lane guys over here, the guys that used to be on.
That used to be.
Place,
yeah, it's
going really well.
It's going great.
But talk about the Jax Gwen matchup. How it should be playing out in theory, and how it could be playing out considering that it is Canna.
Okay, let me break it down.
Yes, thank you.
So Jax, he's gonna hit the minions, stack his passive, stack his grasp. Now it becomes really hard for Gwen to walk up, because he's gonna eat a big grasp out attack, and if Gwen extends the fight, he has the counter strike to dodge all the out attacks. So Jax is gonna push in the wave and crash a big wave. Now, Gwen suddenly has the wave close to her tower, and she can hit the minions and get all her Q stacks up. So now she's going to do the exact same thing, and because she has Ignite, Jax can't really jump onto her, because she has all the Q stacks lined up, and she has Ignite, she actually now starts winning the all-in. So in theory, it's gonna be a little ping-pong match, where they stack big waves back and forth.
But to add on to that, it is exactly how Finn said, but at the same time, there is room for volatility, because both sides can easily make a mistake where they lose control of the wave, and then all of a sudden the ping pong gets kind of broken, and when you disrupt this sort of wave flow, Gwen still has the tools to win, even though Jax, I would say, is a stronger early game champion, at least in the way they interact in the first couple of waves. So it's not really as cut and dry, or like, what is even that thing? Is cut and dry, right?
Cut and dry? I don't know what is cut and dry. But I will also want
cookie cutter?
Cookie cutter?
Nah, it's fine.
Something is getting cut. But I want to say...
English was hard, as you said.
I want to highlight that this Gwen does have Ignite. And while that helps you in the all-in, if your wave is bouncing and your jungler is not behind you, suddenly you're playing Gwen without flash against a Jax that can go on you anytime he wants. So he kind of relies on Yike to, when that wave is bouncing, be behind him and really help him crash that wave.
Exactly. And if I'm playing this matchup, I would be having, different views of the lane in that sense. For example, if I'm Jax, I feel like I need to get a sort of lane lead in that sense, where I need to, keep the tempo up, maybe get a base advantage in that sense where I have more gold than the enemy. But if I'm Gwen, I'm perfectly happy and satisfied being, equal CS at minute 5, at minute 8, because all of a sudden past that point, Gwen will start getting the upper hand. It's just on Jax to make these sorts of mistakes with how he manages the wave in the early game.
And that's not just in top lane. Like, when I think about this KC draft, I see a 25-minute game with an Azir and an Ezreal just holding river, and I see an Heretics that is desperately trying to get like an entrance somewhere. And I feel like it becomes really, really difficult if you're not ahead by that mark to really retake these zones of control that KC is gonna set up. Because if you're gonna walk through all the Mystic shots, all the Sand Soldiers, when the fight starts, you're almost gonna be dead already.
Topic of conversation as well has been sometimes that KC's early game is not as polished or as clean as we like it to be. So if anything, it feels like Heretics this time around is looking to capitalize off of that and try and play it in their advantage.
Go ahead, Finn.
I will go ahead.
I was like looking at you.
Yeah.
She's looking dead in the eye.
Okay, so I feel like this draft from KC is rather slow. And the kind of thing they're going to be relying on in the early game is Yike. Yike's role this game is to kind of stabilize his laners and make sure his Gwen gets his push-outs, his bot lane is not getting dove and pushed under the tower permanently, and that his mid laner doesn't die to constant Vi-Ahri ganks. And that is a lot of jobs.
It is a lot of jobs, and it also requires them to be a little bit more creative than usual, because right now you have this meta where everyone just kind of, full clearing, looking to catch someone on the side lane after the full clear and become the 7 juggle camp where you just, get some free kills and stuff. But I feel like now, especially in Yike's shoes, he has a lot of fires to be putting out potentially with the top lane, potentially needing help at some point to stabilize the lane, with the bot lane playing against the Neeko MF. It does scream like it's time for Yike to start skipping some camps, look for some ganks, take off the full clear shoes, because he needs to be active in the early game. I feel like while Vi is perfectly fine, collecting jungle camps.
Yeah, so the visual bug is actually still happening, and we're going to be chrono breaking the game now in an attempt to fix it. So we're going to keep yapping a little bit longer.
Did you ever have a chrono break, Finn?
Oh yes, let me tell you about my favorite chrono break
go.
story. So we were playing XL against Vitality 2022, and what happened is that Nukeduck was playing, Perks was playing Sylas, and he tried to take someone's ult. But that person had a Banshee's Veil. But Perks did not see that on his screen, so he ulted into the Banshee's Veil and didn't get an ult. So we paused the game.
Okay.
Now, we chrono break the game because there was a bug, which is valid, and the entire game, when we load back in, all the levels are shift. I got like 2 extra kills when I loaded in. My AD carry had no kills suddenly, and all the numbers in the game was kind of corrupted, and the entire file was ruined. So then we had to go and remake the entire game, and it was a complete banger. And we won both games. So with 2-0.
Oh, it was that one where you had the 2-0 in a best of 1.
Yeah, with 2-0 Vitality and a best of 1.
I had a different one.
Tell me about yours.
I was playing Fnatic, and I think it was the Bwipo Hillsong one. And I remember we were on mid lane, and then I think Bwipo was playing Nocturne, if I'm not mistaken, and there's just Nocturne flying at us. Mid-ult, after he lands, he pauses the game because something went wrong, right? We do a chrono break, and what happens in the chrono break, they put you back to the last moment before action happened, so right before a fight. So we were expecting to be put a little bit more behind in time, like 10, 15 seconds before the engage actually happened. But no, they just put us in the game. We restart, we resume the game, the Nocturne ult is flying, and the exact same thing happens. I guess the bug didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I would expect that, the first time they lost the fight, so they said, okay, let's chrono break. But then they did it again, and they still lost the fight.
It reminds me of 2016. I don't remember this here. Rocks versus SKT. When the first time the MF support was brought out against the Syra, in the game 3, the Ashe ults someone, and the MF ults, and they use one-shot them. And then the enemy team pauses and chrono breaks the game. And then they go back into the game, and then exact same thing happened again. I think there's a lot of these instances where the players, they don't realize how fast the chrono break is to the actual game, so they kind of get caught off guard, and then sometimes exact same thing just happens.
But it's so confusing, it's so bamboozling, because you sit there and pause, and all of a sudden it feels like you went back in time, because, technically you did go back in time, but then you just sit there, and then you try to see. It's so hard, because most of the time you're in a pause for a while, and then what happens, you get put back in the game, and all of a sudden you need to load in all of this information, even though you just been in that game for such a long time.
Yeah, and as a pro player, you don't have any experience with a chrono break. No one ever does this.
Well, everybody on KC and Heretics now is going to have a little bit of experience, but in regards to being a player in that situation, do you just sit there and wait?
Some people meditate, some people try to...
Did you meditate?
I don't remember what I did.
You can't really disconnect that much from the game.
Yeah, you kind of I think the most important thing is to keep track of where people are. Because sometimes when you load in, you completely forget where enemy jungle is.
Then you just look at the minimap, no?
Enemy jungle.
There's fog of war,
Yeah, there's
I thought it was where your jungler is.
Oh yeah,
I had plenty of instances like this where we had a pause for such a long time, and then you just forget where enemy jungle is, and you just die to a gank afterwards.
And a little update from our end, the chrono break didn't actually end up fixing the issue, so we're going to be remaking the game with the same picks and bans. So no chrono break, actually.
Chrono break.
On the side of KC and Heretics, they don't get that experience, so you guys...
I don't know if you get the experience. Maybe you get it and then the game just explodes and then you have to remake. Maybe it's still sparkly stuff. But at the same time, it's still 50 seconds in the game. It's not really a big deal in that sense.
Yeah, not a lot of things happened. Maybe someone missed the CS and I was like, yes.
But when it comes to the downtime that you have while you're waiting for everything to be reset, how do you then make sure that you don't tune out completely, but you also don't get too stressed?
You can go crazy in that pause for 30 minutes if you're not allowed to talk.
Oh yeah, because usually you aren't allowed to talk to your teammates. Some people do it and they just talk about random stuff, Because you're not allowed to talk about the game, technically.
Yeah, of course. Makes sense.
And then, like, me and my teammates were thinking about, like, okay, let's make code words for long pauses.
Ooh.
So, like,
What?
like the chicken nugget is the
Hey,
bad
You
one.
are literally like admitting to crimes on the outside.
My favorite thing to do was because if you talk to your teammates, the referee instantly jumps on you, is like, hey, no talking, you know? And then...
Which is true, it's their job.
That's
True,
literally...
but we found a loophole and we just started talking to the referee.
Oh.
Because you're not talking to your teammates, you're talking to someone. Because when you're sitting there for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes...
Okay, it hasn't been that long. I haven't actually kept
I
track,
had a
but-
pause for 2 hours and a half at one point.
What? Are you allowed to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
I think so, at some point.
Usually.
Do you have to like get an escort? Like, hi, sorry.
Yes,
it's like
you get escorted to the
It's like when you're in
bathroom.
an exam hall and
Yeah,
you have to
yeah,
go
yeah.
pee and they like get you an escort.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
So did you ask the ref, like, hey, ref, what if we all go Baron right now?
Now that's the ref how he's doing it. He'd be like, no talking. And we were like, okay, but okay, you're not fun at all, you know?
He was just doing his job. You can't be
Yeah, but he
mad
was
if
not
you're doing-
fun.
Well,
Like, we're there for 30 minutes, no, can't speak to
you
anyone.
said 2 hours.
Well, it was a different, it was a different case.
How many breaks did you have?
There's a lot
Oh,
of, I
many.
mean, it happens.
I mean, when you're an unk like me, it just, you know, you rack them up over
You
the
said
years.
it, not me.
I'm proud of it.
Okay, well, respect.
the proud unk.
Proud unk.
I would still like to bring it back to the game before we actually head into it. I feel like we've talked about the drafts like quite extendedly, but I also think like the stakes when it comes to this is something that we should maybe discuss a little bit because we are looking at KC and they are in this lower bracket. And if they, I mean, yesterday from Fnatic, every single time we had a discussion with one of the players, we'd be like, oh yeah, we're going to be playing against KC tomorrow. So it's kind of like to them was a given. But KC Fnatic in the lower bracket, for me, I kind of expected it that more to be the final. Or Winter repeats itself. And they
Yeah.
play and this go like 5-game banger and then KC goes against G2 in the finals and it's a 3-0.
I mean, now Fnatic has the receipt in hand. They might not draft the Volibear Misfortune Lulu in Game 5. But I do want to see if, because I felt like in Winter, at least the story was for Karmine Corp, that they kind of got lost in the sauce in the Game 4, Game 5 in Fearless. And I would love to see, at least in this playoff, that they kind of overcome those demons, because I feel like it almost happened against MCOY
Yeah.
once again.
Exactly, and even though we're in this lower bracket, for the excitement of everyone, I still want to see, you know, Team Heretics pushing K-Corp, because at the same time we will get, you know, great performance from Team Heretics in that sense, but we also get another chance to see, you know, what people saw in KC as, you know, pretty much they wanted to see the back-to-back champions. How do they fix these sorts of issues when they go into Game 4 and 5? Because that has been the bane of their existence, you know, in the winter split. But then G2 kind of, you know, one-up them on that one. So it's,
Yeah, G2 in playoffs. I feel like that's a curse or the gift that keeps on giving.
it is a curse, but for Fnatic, you know, that's Fnatic's curse.
Ooh, that is a rough one. I mean, Fnatic is looking still pretty good. I think like KC Fnatic, I think if that is the matchup that we do get on Monday, which is tomorrow, it would be a banger. But regardless, Heretics, I think they've proven themselves. They deserve to be here. They play the tiebreaker. They had ups and downs in that regular split. So as you mentioned as well, Odo, like I am looking forward to seeing them push this to at least like 4 games.
Exactly, and it starts now because even in the draft, even though the Poppy, you know, is going to be annoying, you still have a lot of tools and you have a lot of early game agency. So it has to start exactly with this game because it has been a creative draft. It has a lot of playmaking, a lot of win conditions. And yeah, sure, you can still lose the game tragically into the Poppy.
They're big chilling.
Oh, with the popcorn? Yeah, we need some here as
Why are we
well.
slow eating that? Ayo.
A production is like fooling one
know,
of us.
that is
They're literally showing it to us because we're having to sit here and yap. And
It's
we
a
can't
great
eat.
advertisement for their clothing, though. But also a little bit of an update from us is that both MF and Neeko are going to be picking different skins to see if that changes things. Hopefully.
Ooh.
I mean, the little star puddle was kind of cute, though.
What skin are they going to go?
It's crazy how skins can break the
know.
game sometimes.
Yeah.
It used to be way worse back in the day. You had so many.
Blitzcrank.
Blitzcrank was literally so Blitzcrank walks up to you and he's like "Bzz," and then you know with his right hand
hook,
like
yeah.
that. But then Blitzcrank is like nope with his
That
left
was
one.
like a really good impression. Do you want to do it again?
No, I think one time was enough. People can clip it anyway, so it's fine.
I don't think they will. It's not that important.
I also remember that Vladimir skin where it's like ult and like his E and pool just looks like the river. So if he ulted you in river, you would literally not realize it.
Oh my god, yeah.
The Dark
But
Waters
for me, the
one.
annoying one was an Ashe skin. It was like back in 2014 or 2015. What used to happen was that the animation between E and ult was so similar.
Oh yeah.
But it was only a tournament realm thing, right? Because they patched it before you actually went on the live server. So what happens is that the E would fly at you, but you thought it was the ult. And I remember I flashed the Ashe's E at least 3 times. And I was so mad.
Sounds like
You
a
had
new
flash
issue,
up
man.
that many times in game? How long was the game?
Pretty long.
Okay.
Back then, it was like 60-minute games all the time.
Huh. That sounds
Those
really...
were dark
If
days.
we have time, I would love to ask all the question that was always on my mind.
Go for it.
Okay.
Because you played.
How
when-
did it feel when... Oh,
no,
never mind.
you played when Gangplank died.
Oh my
Did
god.
you scream
Oh, we're going into
We're back
game
in the
though.
game.
We're out. Casters, take it away, man.
Welcome back. After what has been a fun bit of downtime, we now give you the featured event. Vedius, Dagda, and my name is Larry. We'll take you into this game and this series, much like we do in every other series, in a way that's full of passion, with a cool new HUD that is springing out into action. I'm still set to talk about minions at some point in the game, but as long as you don't pick Winter Wonderland Neeko, everything can be as happy as Larry.
Well, we don't know if it was the MF or if it was the Neeko.
Ah, so it's a mystery.
It is.
Oh boy. Well, both skins will change.
Detective Larry is on it though.
Yeah, look, that's all we could ask for. Now, before we're going into this game, we're talking a little bit about draft, and I can revisit some of those conversations. We did talk about blue wall, red wall, just to remind people again. Maybe this set it up. Maybe this broke the game. Maybe this was actually the bug. Because I can't bring it up now. I'm pressing the button. It's not working. So it was me.
There we go.
I did it. Okay, so this was not the bug to confirm. But again, we're talking about red side and blue side a little bit here for KC, for what it's worth.
And it was mainly just a fun stat. It was it was mainly a bit of fun. I don't know how much weight I really put into it, but it was more so just like it was pretty interesting that KC had such an astronomically higher win rate on blue side than compared to reds. And it wasn't like that they didn't win at all on red side, of course. But yeah, we just thought it would be fun coming into game 2, especially seeing as Heretics find themselves now on the blue side.
We like fun.
I do think though it just shows a value that probably is across the board for blue side, like the picks that you have, being able to get side selection and choose blue, so you can get picks like the Jace for Canna, or you can get some of the Rumble picks, or even the Varus that has been very strong for Caliste as well.
Yep.
I think it just shows the value that some of these picks do have in the current meta, as Caliste taking a lot of damage in these early stages.
Well, note of those picks as well. I mean, some of the power picks that we have been talking about. Caliste on Ezreal is definitely one of them, while not flawless in gameplay. Well, I should say in wins losses. Flawless in gameplay is definitely a right statement. This has been one of his best champs over the course of the split.
Oh, it certainly has been. His positioning, the damage that he deals, he had that crazy play in mid lane not that long ago. The man is just exceptional at the champion, and he always finds a way to have impact. Of course, in the early game, he's just going to be playing it quiet for the time being, farming away. You'll notice on the minimap, the Heretics have 2 pushing lanes for the time being. They've gotten push in mid lane, along with the push in bot. This has allowed Sheo to secure the bot side scuttle crabs. He now pans up towards the top side of the map. Mainly just looking to get some information. He'll run into Yike. Looks like not much will happen off the back of that. Oh, I stand corrected.
Yeah, Sheo jumps in straight away against the wall. He can't do too much because Yike doesn't have the angle. Buckler also denied, and Sheo has red buff. Yike has blue. You know who's going to win.
Yeah, but also just nice timing from Sheo on the Q there. Yike wasn't able to get the set pass prices down, so nicely done. But Yike still just trying to figure out what the hell is going on with Sheo, but I think they will just back away.
Sheo wants to secure that Grom. Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, Carlsen took a bit of an unfavorable trade. Kana doing, I mean, he's just back to business, isn't he?
Yeah.
Constantly shoving in that top wave, trying to keep pressure on the tower, chipping away at the health bar to secure a tower play. He's very close to getting one. Actually, he may have already secured it. Now he can go back to base himself, force the TP out from Carlsen. Wouldn't be surprised to see the TP come through from Canna. Of course, he's not running the flash in this game, so he's going to have to be very cautious of any early ganks.
Speaking of top, there is a reason, you know, Canna was, you know, first all-pro MVP, sorry, all-pro team in the LEC as well, best top laner. And I think when a lot of people were looking at G2 through the lows and through the questions of the regular season, you know, KC consistently, this top laner was always ahead. Again in this game, we're already seeing 200 gold as the lead. Wave pushing out and bouncing from that turret right back into Canna's hands. Remember, he's also taken Ignite into this game as well. No flash, so the lane just that extra bit of volatility added, especially as he approaches level 6.
Yeah, I think it's at the level 6 where you can try and avoid some of the all-in potential from the Jax. It helps out quite a lot and keeps yourself safe. And I think that is some of the help that you can have as the Gwen.
Oh, jump back, bop away. Yike, stopped him in place. Man, that was smooth moves.
That was phenomenal from the side of KC. What's super interesting is that just a few moments ago, Vladi was within kill range of Kamiloo. Kamiloo having that level advantage and bringing Vladi so low down meant that look at the position of Kamiloo here. He's thinking about trying to get a kill, and Vladi punishes that. The ultimates come out at the same time, but then when Kamiloo tries to pop the second charge of the ultimate, Yike is already there to interrupt it. They end up getting first blood onto Kamiloo for the second game in a row.
And Kamiloo has the flash, but trying to get away with that second part of the ult ends up being his demise. So great play from KC to shut that down in the mid lane.
And 2 games in a row now, Yike has been living rent-free in mid, and Kamiloo has been hard lane because Vladi's getting so much attention.
I don't think it's rent-free. Kamiloo's been giving him a lot of money.
That's true. That's true. Maybe it's under the table. It's at least coming from Heretics' side because, I mean, Kamiloo right now, as you said, that ulti's now down as Targamas found in River. Sheo looks at the turn. Kamiloo also moving into position. Flash is available for this Ahri too.
But I do think it's interesting to see the what can I speak today? Just the position of the 2 ways these teams are playing, right? Heretics are very much focused on, hey, we want to look for objectives, whereas for KC, you're like, cool, we're just going to look for plays around mid, get our laners ahead, and then know that we're going to come in with these gold leads later on to contest the kind of second, third dragons, the Rift Heralds at the later portion of the game.
And I will say that what's been nice to see from Yike ever since he joined KC is the flexibility that he's demonstrated as a jungler. Sure. When he was on G2, the easy thing to say about him as a player is, oh, when you've got Broken Blade, Caps and Hansama as laners, the game becomes very easy for you as a jungler. And so joining KC, there were naturally a lot of question marks around how he would do. Winter, he absolutely popped off and synergized beautifully with the team. And I think this split, a lot of the conversation has been, he's not a super gank-focused jungler. He's very much about covering for his laners, making sure that his laners are set up for success. But as he's demonstrating in this game, he can be that gank-focused jungler. He can just tunnel on one lane, punish mistakes, and look for early opportunities. Again, just demonstrating his versatility as a player.
KC making the move though. Grubs are now spawned, and Heretics, while again getting early Dragon was nice. Grubs last game had a bit of a lasting impact, and especially when you have Gwen, when you have Azir. And something we need to mention here is KC are obviously trying to match Flakked for now.
I don't think KC can contest this though. Stend has hit level 6 off that top wave, whereas Targamas is still a good bit off of his ultimate, and Neeko with a flash ult could completely change this outcome, but KC still looking to move into at least some contesting position.
Yike's ultimate could be a difference maker if he can connect it onto the right target.
But I love the Stend mention, the support difference in ulti. That's what we look for, the Pop Blossom. Team Heretics know that KC are now rivering in, and with 2 Grubs already down the third this time, Team Heretics might just find really good outcome for the blue side here in this game too.
Even having the access towards this top side as well, Caliste a little overextended.
That's as real as it gets, isn't it? Caliste is just going to walk up, Pop Blossom found, but Flash matched nicely. There's the crackdown as well to drop Rod. Stend almost executed, but he gets out of the mud. Eventually has to burn everything, but Stend survives.
Good turnaround by KC on the play. Stend didn't flash to try and follow Caliste underneath the tower, but meant that he was overextending himself as Targamas comes back into lane. Nice job to get at least the summoner spells out of the Heretics support.
I like the patience from Stend. Just getting the flash from Caliste or saving the flash yourself proves very valuable later into the game, maybe when you're contesting the next dragon in 2.5 minutes. But then the response from Targamas was just as good, punishing the fact that Neeko's in an awkward position. She's rooted in place because of her ultimate, and then the combo from Caliste, maximizing the amount of damage he can do with his combo. The ultimate, if it had connected, would have resulted in a kill. But a nice flash comes through from Stend. So good individual play across the board from both sides there. Ultimately, though, it is the bot lane of Team Heretics that are forced back and already resetting back out onto the map.
As Vladi dodges away from the Tangle Barbs, they need to bring an issue in, and that Yike's moving up river and looking for a crashdown, which he finds. Sheo ulted up, and Vladi's ulti goes nowhere, but Sheo should still be dying here. He has to ult back in, but he seeks an assist. Will simply desist. Vladi with his first kill. Now for Kamiloo running away with his Spirit Rush. Or rather, like they're off, he doesn't have enough mana for it, but he gets out anyway.
KC are playing well to collapse on Sheo in these jungles, but now Kamiloo.
Like I said, no mana, he gets stunned up anyway, flip back, but flash in time.
Targamas tried to get the play, but couldn't quite do it, but still, great play from KC again, controlling this river area, making it very difficult for Heretics to try and play towards Sheo. Targamas saw that he could have gone towards Stend, but actually turns towards Sheo, has Canna there to follow up over the wall, works out perfectly for Heretics. As these little picks and plays that again are getting the solo laners ahead, or at least the top side of KC ahead.
Canna was ahead by 800 gold. Quick note that Carlsen picked up double plating their top, because down before he's about 56 to 90 CS. So Canna obviously has a massive lead once again, but Carlsen just trying to mitigate it as Flakked running for his life. Targamas, no flash available, making it rain from the heavens. Flakked would stop any onslaught that was coming his way.
Dragon now spawning in 55 seconds. KC getting themselves that initial pick means that a lot of summoners would, I say a lot.
Oi, ulti, Grandmaster's Might, Carlsen's out. He's got Yike in the way, though. Can he 1-for-1? No. Canna will stay strong. Yike again, always there when you need him.
Nice try there from Carlsen, but as you rightly said, Hysterics Yike once again there to cover his laners. He's going to get himself to 2-0-1 now on the Poppy. And remember that a lot of Heretics' composition is very mobile. Poppy is going to be a massive wall that Heretics are going to have to find a way to get around if they want to find good flanks and capitalize on the backline. We'll see how they make things work, as right now the game goes further and further into the hands of KC. Preparation of the dragon spawning in 10 seconds.
Again, though, I think you still have to be careful here as KC. Yes, you've got a little bit of a gold lead for yourselves, but the combo with Flakked and Stend, especially with that Bloodthirster now completed for Flakked, could be crucial, but Dragon going to be started, but KC not really going to be in a position, I think, to take this quick enough before Heretics can contest.
That is fake Sheo coming in. Stend with ulti, no flash available. KC, Dragons might be dead before anyone comes in. And yeah, down it goes, 1-for-1. Targamas goes over the wall, he's found him. Magnet Storm out. Cheeky Neeko engaged, just denied. He'll pop Blossom, but he'll die. KC with a pick, and look, Team Heretics want to find after the thought with bullet time. They might just find something, but Vladi sends out the wall. Shutdown goes to Sheo, so in the end, the Azir drops. Targamas pick up the side as well. You guys were just talking about Team Heretics comp playing fast. That's finally how they do it.
I like the response from Heretics. So many resources were already used from KC to lock down Stend. Stend still got his ultimate off onto 2 members. Vladi is basically isolated in the river. So notice, at this point you're thinking, well, what's Heretics even really looking for? The dragon's already dead. But their goal is to try and get something back off of this collapse onto Stend, and I like the idea. Caliste uses his E forward, Vladi tries to walk back through the river, Chain CC comes down onto Vladi, forcing his flash out. But at this point, the Poppy doesn't really have anything to stop the mobility coming through from Heretics, meaning that they convert it into 2 picks themselves, keep the gold still quite even.
And just a nice timing window as well. Flakked had just reset for that Bloodthirster, so very strong coming into that fight.
Yeah.
And now they can kind of reap the rewards, getting some of those kills back. But still, I think you do have to find ways as Heretics to continue to put this pressure forward. Now, a minute and a half until Rift Herald, I think is going to be that next protocol. It's just going to be a case of Stend having that flash available. Can he find that ultimate while he's got Heretics in position to actually follow up?
I guess what I've noticed this game is Flakked once again is the only one really in the lead, as you can see on the scoreboard. Naturally, you know, a lot of you can see what's going on here. You have eyes. Flakked, he's the person last game that was on the utility Jhin that couldn't add too much in the comp. This game, if he gets the right setup, he can win the game. I feel like it's the difference between game 1 and game 2 draft, where Flakked maybe has more options to succeed.
I mean, that MF ultimate can definitely be a tide turner in the event of a team fight.
A TT.
It very much is determined on the positioning of Flakked and the timing of how they chain their combos together. Because remember, Charm plus the Vi ultimate in conjunction with the Neeko ultimate, there's a lot of setup for the MF. The question is how much threat is on the MF herself, because Canna, he's no stranger to finding flanks himself. Sheo should have spotted out Vladi here.
But it's also, as you said earlier, Betty, like the disengage from Vladi, Targamas, even Yike as well, just makes it very difficult to set up with Flakked.
Archenship forward. Yep, Yike running into Flakked up against the wall. Perfect stun. His Poppy is clean, and Caliste has got another kill because of it.
And 15 seconds until that Rift Herald as well, but here we go.
They're turning the engagement. Max Storm gets in the way. Good tangle bars to the wall. Up against another wall. Sheo can't move. He pops into Targamas. The pop away is good, but Vladi over the wall is lethal tempoing it up with the buckler to secure the kill. Yike will take 1, and KC are still just winning most of the fights in this game.
Targamas was a hero in that play. Jumping over the wall, tanks the charm from Kamiloo, so Vladi has enough time where he's not CC'd to get the Emperor's Divide down and keep himself alive. That was clutch in the moment.
And then, to follow it up, Yike connects his ultimate onto Kamiloo, knocking him out of the fight and creating a numbers advantage. Now Canna finds himself in a 1v2.
But can he win it out? That's my big question. Kamiloo's scared. Stend might be scared. Tanglebarb's is out. Pop Blossom is going to come after the charm as well. Canna kept in place, but the needlework turns the tide to battle. Onto Stend. It's 1 more to go, but Stend will walk it out. He survives. No! That Ignite felt like it went for years.
The Ignite went down, and even though the heal came through, it wasn't enough HP. Canna in a 2 versus 1 finds himself another kill. And KC, just like that, back out onto the map, extending their gold lead even more.
KC just like that, looking terrifying on the Rift once more. This is a very different team than what faced up against Envoy, but Canna.
Stopping the back is good. Electric proc out from Kamiloo. He's got an ulti. but won't be able to chase Canna down. Meanwhile, KC are getting Herald in the top lane. You still think it's going pretty well.
Carlsen survive this?
There you ask great questions, Dagda. Let me answer them for you. With Vladi having a wall stun alongside, thanks to Yike, and with the turret about to fall, Carlsen either dies staying or lose the turret regardless. A 1-for-1 in terms of building.
So we take a breather.
Okay.
As it feels like the last few moments have been nothing but action. Heretics constantly trying to find picks where they can, but KC constantly shutting those picks down. We felt like that we saw a moment of momentum swing as Heretics find 2 picks on the bot side river, but every other attempt since then, KC have successfully stopped from happening and have only continued to extend their gold lead. 2K with their eyes set on the mid lane tower. The Herald needs to get within range to knock this one down. It should do more than enough damage to secure that objective and set up nicely for KC to make their way towards the Drake.
The charge change makes it that much easier.
Keep your eyes on Stend though, already moving into position on this bottom side of the map. He wants to try and look for some sort of flank play on KC, and I don't think he's been spotted just yet. I didn't quite see the ward that was down there.
Pressure Barrage comes through, snips out the wave a little bit. Carlsen's moving through mid as well. Now that he's got a Trinity Force, he wants to play, but I don't know if KC are going to let him. They're still in river, holding control over this third Drake.
They've given up position on Stend though, so at the moment, KC still have a window to kite back, which is exactly what they want to do with this composition. Just deny Heretics entry in, but Carlsen also on a flank.
Yeah, Carlsen's the guy you need to keep your eyes on. This KC, if they're going to turn on to anyone, it'll be him.
Copy ult. Yike misses. That's down. 2.5k. Dragon still in contention. Carlsen's still there, spotted out. Team Heretics hold control, but it's stolen. Yike just walked up and finished the smite. Sheo now wants to engage. The quick shot, or rather, a counter strike. No shot in the end. It's just denied. KC walk it out.
Very patiently played by KC. I will say, that ended up just being a smite fight that Yike ended up getting the better on, because Heretics did a really good job of regaining position in the river. I really thought that a fight was about to blow open there, but neither side wanted to pull the trigger. They have set their sights onto Vladi though.
Trying again, trying to use the tools before, but Vladi's already flashed away. Charm is going to match though, and kept in place finally. Team Heretics, this time, the trade is nothing else.
Good picks from Heretics, using that combo that we talked about of the mid-jungle to set themselves up, and it'll slow down KC bit. Targamas trying to interrupt the resets, but not going to be able to do so. No objectives at the moment. You can see Adakan a minute away, but it will just get them back out onto the map first and get them control of these side lanes.
These Ada towers are what Heretics should be sending their sights on. I'd love to see them start moving their resource towards the top side of the map, but if we look at the minimap, that seems to be the direction that they're heading in. Given that the bot tower is still alive, I imagine that Carlsen's going to be looking to reset soon so they can go and catch the bot wave. But that top outer tower is just an easy objective for Heretics to play for. Canna, against this many members, I feel like you shouldn't be able to stop this tower from falling. I'm very surprised. I feel like that they could just walk up as 3, hit the tower.
I think they're a little nervous of Vladi TPing into the play as well, and having that Gwen is immune just to buy enough time.
Waiting for him to turn up, or at least turn up closer to the wave. Stend, gonna lens now. Canna's got full stacks, he's just lost it. He's out for the range. Gonna try and clear the wave, counter strike coming through. The turret goes first. Needlework's gonna fly out, 1 versus 3. Seems a bit hard, right, guys? As Canna drops in the end, big shutdown, while Vladi trades on the other side of the map.
I do feel like they could have done this exact same play on the previous wave, but ultimately they did the play, which is fine. KC, though, the difference is they'll be able to exchange on the bot side of the map, because both solo laners were just hovering around the top side for a very long time with MF in mid and Sheo on the top side jungle. So they completely conceded all of that bot wave farm. Vladi was able to pick that one up, push the wave all the way into the tier 2. Carlsen, of course, going to do something similar on the top side. Crucially, he will close that gold gap that existed between the 2 top laners. And Heretics find themselves in a good spot. What was a 2.5k gold difference earlier has now shrunk to merely 900 gold.
I mean, again, for Team Heretics, surprises like this that we even saw in the regular season match, right? Like, yeah, sure, they held early game leads, but they were very good at finding windows and opening them by force of a crowbar or some kind of anti-theft device. I've never robbed anywhere, so I don't know how to get, I don't know how to break it. Kind of out of my depth with that one. I just know about opening windows because it gets hot in Berlin.
Yeah, if Heretics were trying to go for a little bit of steal, though, they were moving down towards Adakan. I think trying to see if they could get the push and then immediately turn towards it. Because if Targamas, sorry, not Targamas, Yike showed on that top wave, which he considered as Vladi was up there, they were going to go for the Adicon, but don't actually pull the trigger in the end. Just back off, seeing that there was a ward on the bottom lane. So KC moving to position, cleared all the vision that Heretics are looking for, but Charm.
He connects. He shifts away. Caliste has a flash available, but Kamiloo's not going to be able to force it out of him. Targamas there to save, and really nice movement. Kamiloo also getting the charm again, and some burst damage. A minute 30 till Drake. Probably won't matter with the resets about to come in.
Nice play, though, from Kamiloo, connecting 2 charms, doing good damage onto the bot lane of KC. Means that, wow, I'd like to say that they could convert it into something. Unfortunately, they only really get, well, nothing. They get some farm,
There you go.
They get some nice damage down, but there's no real objective for them to play for on the map, because they didn't even clear out the vision in the river. For now, that still belongs to KC. So I guess the idea was good from Kamiloo. He just doesn't quite have the damage, and KC, as they often are, was there to defend their AD carry.
Still, Kamiloo fishing here. Going to get some damage onto Targamas as he pokes his head in.
Charm again, but this time it might convert into something better, because 45 seconds. Dragon is spawning out. Targamas just healed up with pots.
I think they're trying to just look for mid-tower as Heretics, though. You can see, looking for a potential play there. Caliste interrupted there, and this Vi is hovering over the wall. Caliste still has flash, though. I don't think you can really go for this.
Well, I guess prove us wrong. Caliste, point blank ulti, bullet time, not cancelled in time. Yike tried to help out. Under turret, Sheo escapes the teleport to burn it out. Picture in picture. One from Team Heretics going to match as well. Dragon seems like a done deal with Caliste down to 35.
So I will say this was the play that they got off of that charm play earlier from Kamiloo, because Caliste had not backed this entire time. He did have the pots, as Hysterics was saying, but he didn't have any inbuilt lifesteal, which means that he didn't really regain that much HP, putting him within window for Sheo and Flakked to find that combo and find a kill. They'll convert it into the mid tower, they'll finally unlock all outer towers, and just like that, for the first time in this game, they'll get themselves a very minor gold lead.
And Vedius, much like your last name, this is night and day from what we saw in Game 1, right? Game 1 was a stomp. It wasn't even close. There were micro differences and macro differences. All the Crow differences flash over the wall. Carlsen's just going to get his way out, much like a Crow. He
Look
flies
at
off.
Adicon. The resets, like the resets were there for Heretics, but they didn't quite take them because KC immediately turned over towards Adicon. Flakked now trying to move down to help cover.
Teleport going to be churned. Kamiloo finds nothing off his poke. That TP right in the open here for KC. Peeking his head in is Stend, disguised for the time being, 4.5k for the Adicon. It's about this pop blossom in. It's a 2-man onto Yike as well. They've already taken down one. Targamas there again, just down with Stend. Dies in the interim. Yike runs away, but the smite comes in, and finally, Sheo wins the smite fight, but in goes Vladi, flies in, interrupted. Sheo met the wall with an iron fist, and KC are kept in place.
The Adicon is always an ambitious objective to go for, and Stend shows us why. A beautiful engage from the Heretics support, connects onto 2, and immediately removes the front line. KC wisely responding kind by trading mid laners, but then it all starts to fall apart.
KC thought they had a window because Heretics were going to go for the reset, but Stend, that huge engage. And then as you try to engage, Yike goes too far. Canna's going to get pushed out. But watch as Vladi goes for the play. Sheo, perfect timing on the ultimate, so he doesn't get pushed back by the Emperor's Divide. Kamiloo also able to flash away from us. And what could have been that hero moment for Vladi turns to dust in his fingers.
And just like that, Heretics continue to build more of a lead. Earlier on, we were talking about how Flakked is going to have to be the big carry for this team, and he is stepping up right now. A 3-item misfortune, a 1.2k gold lead over Caliste. A strong performance from the MF, and Heretics have definitely come online in this series.
Just like Carlsen as well, getting a bit more confidence, maybe just in the matchup. He gets a good counter-strike onto Canna, and
the Ignite,
everyone plays it out. Yeah, the Ignite, you said it, might make the difference. Need to work flying as well. Carlsen in trouble. He took that 1v1, and he did not mean to in the end.
It wasn't even close. Canna half HP, and Carlsen left wanting off the back of that. Heretics now stepping up over towards the Baron as well. Flakked never used the ultimate in the last fight, so has that open available if they want to try and make something happen here.
I mean, Canna gave him the flaming trim treatment, where the counter-strike really doesn't do much against the snip-snip. And with the additional burn of the Ignite, he was able to win out on the 1v1. And now look at that tower in the bot lane melting. KC have so much control on the map, threatening the bot side, threatening the Baron. The engage comes in.
The engage is good though. Pop Blossom onto Vladi, knocked into the air. One more bit of damage. Vladi gets out though. Somehow Sheo stunned up against the wall. The mid laner surviving is a sting in the teeth. The Stend just has to stand there. The ball time has no setup. It gets some damage, but it doesn't get the results. Team Heretics have now lost 2. and Baron still stares them in the face.
Heretics naturally feel the pressure, and as you rightly said, Hysterics, that looked like a great engage. I need to see the replay as to why they didn't quite have enough damage to clear it out.
Targamas, there's a charm coming. They don't know his HP yet, just a lens. Kamiloo pokes him out, but teleport's going to be burned by Vladi, I believe. We know he's walking. He's just put it up.
I mean, they can't contest this Baron. They don't have Sheo. He ends up dropping, and the Baron is secured. It felt like the momentum was so quickly shifting in Heretics' favor, and just like that, they lose it.
Yeah, they try to go for the play, but they just don't really have the damage. Look at Targamas here. They go in, off to the side, but the knockback coming through from Yike keeps them out. And then this auto nearly picks off Vladi, but the shield comes through just in time, and then Targamas able to get the lockdown on towards Stend as well to finish them off. Just great ultimate from Yike to set them up.
That Yike ult was phenomenal. I think that's the second or third that he's had this game that really has been a fight decider. And now just like that, KC find themselves back in the driver's seat with the Baron as well. They can choose to play through 3 lanes or 2. They have the options with their draft. But Canna, remember, he just came off of solo killing Carlsen. You really kind of have to send the Ahri into him just to act as a wave clear bot because of how strong he is.
I just feel like this series so far is really being defined by junglers. I will say, Sheo trying his heart out on this fight, but Yike both games on the Wukong, now on the Poppy. It's been making midlife a little bit hell in the first 15 minutes, transitioning into some of the strongest engages that we've seen in this series.
But I think it's also the fact that Yike has been significantly more active in the early stages. We kind of look at him as someone who shadows for his laners as Vladi, just able to get out, but still locked.
It is a good engage. Sheo starts it off onto Vladi again. The wall goes sideways. The Maximum brings him in. The pop also brings him down. The bullet time reels them in. It's a masterclass from Heretics, and Canna's just teleported in the middle of it. A stun up, a kill, and that is how you team fight if you're a Heretics man.
Just like that, Heretics find an amazing fight in the top lane. KC, filled with confidence, sieging onto the base of Heretics, gets turned around on by a single engage, and now they can look to put themselves on soul points.
Caliste TPing in to try and contest Sheo on towards this, but multiple members of Heretics in the area means he's going to have to back away. Heretics finding the moment where KC are pushing mid and also top at the same time, and the engage is perfect onto Vladi. He goes for the Emperor's Divide, but the follow-up is there. The knockback keeps Vladi in the bullet time, and that went to the full hour. That entire bullet time, that was not getting interrupted. That was rinsing through KC on that top play.
That is a very nice
I did the side
combo.
step. It was so crazy. It's just most important is to be on the same page. It's just different calls, and it's really fine. They can't handle anything, but...
Okay, so some coordination issues coming through from the side of KC. Naturally, when you're in that kind of a lead, there are a lot of ways that you'd want to then push that advantage, and it seems that they didn't quite align on the direction that they wanted to go. The game basically resets to even now, though, as itemization is continuing to be completed. You can see that 3rd item for a lot of players across the board being completed. 4th item is pretty much done for both ADs with a slight advantage in favor of Flakked.
It's the dragons that are huge for me as well. The fact you can have soul point now for Heretics, 4 minutes until that next objective, a steal or just the setup or a pick beforehand could be exactly what Heretics need to kind of give Flakked the tools in a team fight to just carry over with that excess damage thanks to the soul.
And when you're playing Ahri, when you're playing so much pick, I love Infernal Soul because that extra excess of damage might make the difference between night and day again. Targamas not caught out. Kamiloo might be though. Canna, edge of the range of Snip Snip. Targamas looking for the pick, but Kamiloo's going to get out of there. Because again, it's 3 minutes 30 before Dragon. Nothing's spawning in this side of the map for now. Just trying to reach and get a little bit of an advantage here and see how they can open up the game next.
I will say that Vladi has been caught out quite a few times throughout this game. We think back to the Artican, he did try to make that ambitious play while his team was retreating, and he ended up getting punished by Sheo. On the top side of the map, it was Vladi who they engaged onto again, and even around the Baron, Vladi just seems to be the target that Heretics have set their sights on, and they've done a pretty good job of shutting him down. Caliste, often a lot of these fights, isn't even present when some of these fights happen, but when he is where we see some of the big game-deciding fights go in KC's favor. Ultimately, though, we're waiting for the next Baron to spawn. That's going to be a big determinant in the direction of this game, and who will be the one to start it up? Who can find that advantage to help swing the game in their favor?
Looking at summoners for now, everything's up and available. Look at left and right side of your screens, ladies and gentlemen. I see flashes, 9 in tow. I see TPs up and available as well. And as we talked about the evenness of this game, we look towards Baron in 1 minute 20, the next objective to have our focus on.
Yeah, Targamas sneaking in to get some extra vision down on the opposite side, but I do think, at least for the moment, the advantage that you do have is that both side lanes are pushing for Heretics, so it does open up to Stend to try, or sorry, both Sheo and Kamiloo to work together to try and play towards mid lane. Unfortunately, Flakked with the reset there couldn't quite keep the wave state in a position where it could open Stend to work alongside them, and maybe you could look for those plays onto Targamas, but the fact that Canna is so far ahead in the side lane just makes it very difficult for Carlsen to try and answer for any sort of push that he has.
We'll give Carlsen a bit of credit. And no, it's not just because it's me. But Carlsen in this game was down quite a lot in the CS department, about 40 CS. We started changing lanes into the 2v1. And he was behind about a level as well. He's caught up. 3 items, 3 and a bit. And against the Gwen, I mean, he obviously can't hold his own, as we've seen the Gwen in the 1v1 matchup. However, there's a lot more pressure coming out of him than you would have expected had you watched the first 10 minutes and shut off the television. For now, the only major gold lead really stems between bot lanes as Flakked has picked up his 5th item. He's sold boots. Where are the booties? Well, it's misfortune, I guess you just don't care. But he doesn't have boots anymore, he has 5 solid items.
Yeah, I think even though the gold might be even, it's still, as you say, for the Gwen. It's just she's incredibly strong with the sniff, doesn't get interrupted by the counter-strike. And the only thing that you really have is maybe the Zhonya's Hourglass, to try and play for the ultimate, but it still just makes it very outplay reliant for Carlsen, whereas it's quite easy for Canna to try and play through it. And I think that's where a lot of the struggles are going to be for Heretics, keeping pressure on that bottom side of the map.
As Vedius would say at this point in the game, it's time to take a breather, isn't it?
That's what I'm doing, taking a breather.
Ooh, how does it feel for you?
I feel the game right now is very tense for both sides. You can recognize that both teams are hyper aware of a single play could very much decide the game. 33 minutes in, and most games are determined at this point. KC sticking to the fundamentals for now, grouping up, getting that push in mid.
I do think, though, Heretics have made a mistake here. They've tried to take position on Baron too early, which is giving KC access to the midway first. Now they can close out a lot of that vision around that Baron area, because essentially what Heretics are trying to do is call a bluff on KC. Is if you go Dragon, we go Baron, and even if you get the Dragon, cool, that just puts us on even footing, but we will get the Baron off the back of this. KC now calling that, saying, cool, we're going to send Caliste over, but Carlsen now pushing to the top side, so this is where you have to start this Baron as Heretics, or look for some sort of turn and play, quick play onto KC.
Touch him out of rotation. Sheo's going to pop the ulti. It won't be stopped by the steadfast presence, and Yike trying to pop against the wall, but Sheo sent away. For now, that's good. That gives some bleeding away from KC. True shot barrage misses, and that's Yike's ulti down for what it's worth.
That felt very forced from Heretics. Dagda was running through it of the idea of what Heretics wanted. You guys go for the Dragon, we then punish you on the top side of the map because you're not supposed to be in this area of the map. Unfortunately for Heretics, they couldn't quite lock down Yike because of a good ultimate once again from him. And now, knowing the Heretics have committed to some resets, there's an opportunity for KC to start this objective off. Maybe they can even get some TPs out from the Heretics members. It looks like that they're too hesitant to commit, so now they'll choose to reset themselves.
I think Sheo and Flakked are just too strong of a combo right now. May get a point in case here as they look towards Canna, but yeah, just the lockup the Sheo offers into that bullet time right now, I think would be very dangerous in the pace. So KC back away, giving respect to that combo.
Canna, he knows something sus here. He's feeling it. Sees, he just saw the tip of Sheo coming out of that bush. And the Q's not going to connect. Instead, it might be a turnabout play. KC may have found Sheo, but Q out again. Need the Poppy to get in for the step-fast presence. They turn it into an ulti and a kill. Canna's down, but the wombo's in first. Stend gets an ulti on the back end, but Vladi goes gold. He's already done his job as Yike gets bopped around with the jack. Entering Carlsen makes a team fight his own. Looks sent down, but the underdogs reign supreme.
Heretics get to deal with KC one by one. It's Canna who goes in too quick. And Heretics now, can they look for at least cracking the base, but how much more?
Caliste could do very little in the fight, and now he has to stand strong against 4 members of Heretics that are looking to break into the pace. 20 seconds left on Targamas, 25 on Yike. At the very least, I don't think he's going to defend an inhibitor. The question is, will Heretics look for more?
Gets back to the true shot barrage, gets the kill. That's Stend down, he flashes away from the charm, re-engages, gets the Q down, counter-strike in. But remember, he's got a Sonya's. In inventory, timing's not good. Sheo went early, but mid-air, Carlsen
strikes the pose. Ace for Sheo, but Team Heretics, the respawns, they're coming back. It's not over yet.
They at the very least get an inhibitor. TP is available onto Canna and he's coming in.
And Sheo's one hit, Carlsen might be two, Kamiloo might be three. It's Targamas for the engage, Yike there, he re-engages, no, there's no way out with the Spirit Rush. Sheo has to sacrifice his life, that ignite is a one-shot and a shutdown for Canna as KC chases the rest and Kamiloo again has already popped his ulti, so Vladi this time as he doesn't get charged, will get a shutdown as well. And remember, Baron is still up.
Heretics overstay their welcome. They are committed to getting the kill onto Caliste, meaning that they leave no room for their escape. The chase down comes through from KC, and by taking out Sheo, the smite is gone, and KC get themselves a Baron.
Caliste might have fallen, but he sets up for KC to win big off the back. And here, big mistake. They try and go forward. Sheo doesn't quite get over the wall, but the setup is there. But as Targamas engages, Vladi gets locked up by the Pop Blossom. You've already got Con who's got no damage, and Caliste, you can see him there. He's just trying to take pop shots from a mile away because nowhere is really safe for him to get into the fight. All the damage dealers weren't present at the moment that they needed to be for KC, and Heretics find what they wanted, but then overextend off the back.
It felt like KC weren't expecting Heretics to respond as quickly as they did, because the collapse was coming through from KC onto the top side of the map, but the fact that Caliste took so long to get into the fight meant that it was basically over before he'd even really been able to arrive. So many big ultimates were already used, and then Heretics, I think, just got a little too excited. They saw the opportunity to potentially end the game rather than just take the easy objective of the Baron, and instead that ended up being their own undoing. Now we find ourselves once again in a relatively even game state, where even though KC have themselves the Baron, the exposed inhibitor on the top lane continues to be pushed by Carlsen.
The advantage is for KC on the fact they have the Red Bull Baron power, because you can just push mid with it, fall back towards that dragon that's in 50 seconds, and that's soul for KC. And you need to get creative here as Heretics if you want to try and find some sort of answer. The fact that it's Caliste on the top side maybe will give a window of opportunity here for Heretics to look for some sort of play on mid, because it is this combo between Sheo, Stend, Kamiloo setting up for Flakked with the ultimate across the top to pick off members that Heretics are looking for.
Must be so annoying seeing that. Oh wait, that Ezreal has TP as well, so regardless he can always join his Canna's in first. Yike runs in through the river. This is the fight. This is Infernal Soul. 20 seconds.
I think the problem that you're going to look at though is, oh, it's gone now, but Zhonya's Hourglass on Canna, Zhonya's Hourglass on Vladi, Sour's on Anya Glass on Caliste. Your target selection for Heretics is gone, but Kamiloo still fishing.
It's a good charm. It gets some damage onto Targamas. The engage tool for KC. They're going to be relying on. Kamiloo's been hitting some good charms, but Sheo instead have been hitting some good engages. Dragon now spawns. 9k, 8k, disengage, no jungler. Burning it down, a free advantage. Kamiloo takes it. That sliding box. It's close to the back right field goal. He has to get charmed up. Meanwhile, Carlsen wants to disengage them, get them away because KC are winning the fight, but Yike up against the wall will now lose it all. Kamiloo is that kind of fox.
The fact he steals the soul out from underneath KC, and then Heretics now are TPing into the base. It's just over.
Best smile, maybe best Ahri, I don't know, but Team Heretics came in as underdogs for this series, and now fight a 2 versus 2. In the base, Canna and Targamas stand. One Nexus turret against Baron minions. Is the timer too much to work with? The Sheo now makes it 3.
The respawns are coming through in 20 seconds. Heretics have a lot of time to play with.
Engage on Targamas, charm follows soon as well. Carlsen gets the stun up and his damage is immense. Canna goes to safety of his turret, but he won't find a single thing. Nexus turret to drop, and Heretics enter the series.
It looks like this game belonged to KC, but Heretics found the picks, they found the pocket to play in, and just like that, KC crumbled.